So earlier today, a lot of MMA news did release regarding the flyweight division in particular, as well as a lot of other matchups that were recently announced as well. But the big shakeup really is Tatsura Taira is not going to be fighting Joshua Van. Alex Perez is not going to be fighting Tagir Ulanbekov. Instead, Perez and Taira are going to be fighting each other in the main event of the June 15th event. And then Tagir Ulanbekov is going to be fighting at Joshua Van instead. But also another fight that was announced, I believe, just the day before, is Muhammad Mokaev versus Manel Kape. So I'm going to talk about all of those matchups, and then at the very end, just talk about all of the other fights that have been announced today. There's been a lot of them, as well as a Kevin Holland fight. I'll quickly brush over those, but I definitely did want to touch on these flyweight matchups, as I do feel like this could be a very, very big shake-up in the division, especially if Tatsura Taira is able to defeat Alex Perez, because if you do actually look at the UFC rankings, Alex Perez is ranked number 5 right now, and he just knocked out Matheus Nicolau. Now, Matheus Nicolau is a better win than I think that Tatsura has got in the UFC so far. So far, he has just been looking really dominant over unranked competition. And now, instead of getting what is a little bit of a test, I think would have been for him and Joshua Van, he's going to be fighting the number 5 ranked guy. And I know Alex Perez probably is a guy that not many people do put too much respect on, because he was pulling out of a lot of fights. He had been incredibly inactive in the past. But now all of a sudden, Alex Perez is back. I don't know if he was battling injuries or something like that, but he is back. And he's really, really back. And I genuinely feel like Alex Perez probably has a good chance of beating Tatsura Taira. I will be honest with you, just because I know Taira is 5'7" for the weight class. He is quite thin, and I think he could struggle to get Alex Perez down to the ground and hold him down, because Perez is a very, very good fighter in his own right. Definitely will be the better striker. Definitely will be the more powerful striker in the matchup. But I am kind of siding with Taira in this one here, but I definitely do want to know your opinions in the comments below, because you do have to consider this. Alex Perez did just knock out Matheus Nicolau. And Matheus Nicolau is a guy that would have been and was trying to take down Alex Perez in that matchup, and Nicolau's no bum, and Taira has never fought a ranked opponent yet, so we don't even know how good this guy really is, and he's only 24 years old, so it's a tough one. When the fight was first announced, I did kind of think, man, I think Alex Perez is going to win this one. Now that I think about it, Taira's grappling is so good, and you don't necessarily need to take Alex Perez down. I mean, if you do look at what Pantoja did, he didn't actually get Perez down to the ground when he secured the choke. He did climb up on his back against the cage, and maybe Taira could do something like that, but there is going to be a big power and striking discrepancy there, so definitely let me know what you think of that one. And now we've got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. This is going to be, I thought this was going to be at UFC 302. This is going to be on the same event, actually. So yeah, a lot of flyweight shakeups potentially in the rankings, all in one event. But to be honest with you, I do think that this is going to just be a little bit too much for Joshua Van. I think that, I've said this before and I will say it again, I think Joshua Van would run a men's strawweight division. I genuinely believe that Van could make 115 pounds, just because, especially when you look at him in there with other fighters, he is really small for 125 pounds, and I feel like the big example of this is against someone like Paris Moran, who was a big guy that was trying to take him down and was having success in taking him down. He's come into the UFC, had a lot of success, he's got a lot of hype behind him, and deservedly so, because he is a very good boxer, has a very fun personality, wants to fight all of the time, and you do have to respect that. But I do think stylistically in this fight, I think he might struggle with Tagir, because Tagir is absolutely massive for 125 pounds, and he is a wrestler. To be truthful though, Tagir's striking is a bit terrible, and as long as Van keeps this fight on the feet, I do think he could box up Tagir Ulanbekov. But ultimately, I do think the size will play a little bit of a factor in this one here, and I do think Tagir will be able to use his big size advantage to out-wrestle Joshua Van and ultimately win a decision. I would love to see Van win, but I do think that Tagir is going to be a little bit too much, too soon for the very young, up-and-coming prospect. The final fight at flyweight I wanted to mention is Mokaev versus Kape. Looks like I'm in the minority of this one. I think Kape wins. I genuinely do think that Manel Kape might be able to snatch the hype and potentially the title shot off Muhammad Mokaev, because Pantoja has said that he was kind of choosing, I guess, between Mokaev and Usyk for his title defense at 301, and Mokaev, I believe, was observing Ramadan at the time, so he didn't get the shot. Mokaev went 23-0 as an amateur, 11-0 as a pro, but I'll be honest with you guys, I feel like I'm getting less and less impressed by Mokaev's fights. There are some people out there that think Perez won against Mokaev. Mokaev did win, in my opinion, but it was close. And then he was down 2 rounds on 2 of the judges' scorecards against Elliott. So if Elliott was able to survive that 3rd round and it was a 10-9 round, Elliott would have won by split decision 29-28 against him. Jafel Filho put him in submissions. Malcolm Gordon, I know it was 18 months ago, but gave him problems on the feet. You can't let Malcolm Gordon give you problems on the feet, man. I do think that Manel Kape's takedown defense is going to be good enough to keep the fight on the feet against Muhammad Mokaev, and I do think he is going to be the much, much better striker in the fight, and for that reason, I am going to pick Kape. Obviously, people have kind of done a 180 on Kape, because at one point he was like, I don't know, like some sort of figure that people were praising, and then he's pulled out of fights, and he's what's he done, missed weight and all this sort of stuff, and missed weight in a fight which he probably could have won in hindsight against Nicolau, you know what I mean? So yeah, Kape, I feel like he's definitely lost the fans a little bit here, but I do think he can beat Mokaev, and I do think he will beat Mokaev by decision in this one here. Yeah, pretty much that's kind of it for the flyweights. Let me know what you think in the comments below, though. And now let's just quickly kind of brush over some fights. Cortez versus Maverick has been announced. Cortez's boxing recently has been looking so good. I do think she will be able to keep the fight on the feet against Maverick and beat her up on the feet. McCann versus Brazil. I'm really going to have to think about this one, because McCann is coming off some horrible performances. But I think Bruna Brazil isn't very good either. I think she's very one-dimensional. Maybe side with McCann since it's in the UK. Pudilova versus Carolina. This is kind of one of those ones where it's like, probably Carolina decision. Bannon versus Oliveira. Interesting, as Oliveira fought at 135 pounds in her debut, now coming down to 115 pounds. I very much overhyped Shauna Bannon, and I will put my hand up and say that, because Shauna Bannon was a world kickboxing champion, or I believe she had a world kickboxing WAKO World Kickboxing Championships, and then she lost her debut on the feet, and then now I just don't know how to feel about her. I don't know. I might still side with Bannon, but obviously got to look into that one. Brundage taking on Abdulrazak El Hassan. I do like Brundage for what he's kind of done, but I think Abdulrazak El Hassan will be able to defend the takedowns of Brundage. And although Brundage does consistently keep saying he's been working on his striking, and his striking is better than everyone thinks it is, it didn't look very good against Bonakul, in my opinion. And I do think that we're going to see the power of Abdulrazak El Hassan come back. And I think he probably is going to knock out Brundage. I like this one, Brad Tavares versus Jun Yong Park. Once again, a fight I'm going to have to do tape on, but I don't mind the idea of picking Jun Yong Park in this one here. I think Jun Yong Park did lose his last fight, and took a bit of damage doing it, but striker versus striker fight, though, because Jun Yong Park's not going to be able to take Brad Tavares down. The more I think about it, actually, no, Tavares is old now, man. I'm going to go with Park, but obviously going to have to do some tape study on that one. The flyweight fight, the Korean Superboy is coming back. Someone commented something like the Superboy is coming back for his yearly dose of violence or something like that, which is kind of true. I do like Bill Algeo a lot, but I think that this might be Superboy's time. I know he had that draw against Kyle Nelson, but he should have been given that decision. Or it was more the referee robbed him with the point deduction. That was just stupid. And then, weird fight. Mikhail Olachechik taking on Kevin Holland. Boxer and Mikhail, very one-dimensional versus Kevin Holland, who's going to want to strike with him. So you got a striker versus striker matchup. Winnable fight for Holland, in my opinion. Very winnable, and I think that Holland is going to win, even if it is at 185. I thought 170 was a good weight class for him, so it'd be interesting to see if this is a permanent move, but I do like Holland to win this fight. I think he is going to be able to beat Mikhail. And then aside from that, I do like Zhang Yang Li to beat Hyder Emil. I do like Cody Gibson to beat Brian Kelleher, but this is going to be a little bit of a war. And Peyton Talbot has a fight against Giannis Gamori, who's 0-1 in the UFC. Did win that short notice fight up a weight class. Lose it, sorry. But Talbot is the real deal. I think he is the next Sean O'Malley. He hates that comparison, but he is. Trust me, he's going to be a superstar. And then Sanhagen versus Umar I've talked about. And everything else I've talked about a bunch on my channel. UFC predictions, Bellator predictions, Road to UFC predictions, some Contender Series stuff. Check it all out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.